They can hear. But anyways, well, listen, everyone, we're so fortunate to have Jamie Roots with us today, the president of the Houston Texans. But of course, you all already know that. I want to start off by introducing Jamie. Jamie, of course, is the president of the Houston Texans since 2005. He was senior VP between 2000 and 2005. And he's also been the founder and president of Lone Star Sports and Entertainment since 2003. That is a sports management agency associated with the Texans. He also oversees the activities of the Houston Texans Foundation, which of course the mission is the champion for youth. In 2019, Roots was selected as one of Houston Business Journal's most admired CEOs. And prior to joining the Texans, in 1995 to 1999, he was the president and general manager of the Columbus Crew in Major League Soccer. So he has a long history of being a very successful sports executive, that dates back to the mid-90s. He is also, of course, the author of The Winning Game Plan, a proven leadership playbook for continued business success. And I can tell you, it is already a bestseller. And this book just came out in the middle of November. So please take a look at this book. Make a great Christmas gift, that's for sure. So keep that in mind. He is also, and this is noteworthy for you all, he is also a graduate. He's got his Bachelor's of Science in Marketing and Management from Clemson University and his MBA in Marketing from Indiana University. Although he is a genuine good guy, and he ended our little email exchange yesterday with Gig'em. So clearly he's a cool guy. But anyways, Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today, really.
Of course, Richard. It's a great pleasure to be with you guys. I love Texas A&M. It's so similar to Clemson. Just a couple of things. Number one is the military and agriculture focus. Both land grant institutions both have a rival school that's in the big city that we don't like. And the ring at Clemson is so special. You just see that ring and you know you're in good company. So, and when Clemson's played A&M, everybody's told me, they're like, wow, we're so much alike, So great to be with you.
Excellent. Well, I do want to thank 4 students that sent me in some really fantastic questions for Jamie today. So the questions you'll be hearing in my interview with Jamie are a combination of my questions and the questions from Aaron Buchanan, full-time MBA student, Haywood Miller, full-time MBA student, Oscar Barkis, a business honor student at Mays Business School, and Zachary Kroenke, I hope I pronounced your name right, also a business honor student. I thought they were great questions. So anyways, without further ado, I want to ask Jamie our first question of the day. This one comes direct from me. What is it like being Jamie Roots for a day? And what is it like being Jamie Roots on game day, Jamie?
Well, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, okay? Because it is a tortured existence. I never feel like I'm going fast enough, never feel like I'm getting enough accomplished. But I will say that the beauty of it is the people that I have a chance to work with, the McNair family, Cal and Hannah and Janice. Janice treats me like her son. I mean, I'm so blessed. My teammates are so caring, passionate, hardworking, high character. They just care. We out care other people, right? The gas factor, and I won't say what the S is, but it's S factor here is very high. And my family, I've got a wonderful family. My wife has been so supportive. My son is now up at TCU and is a freshman, and he couldn't get into A&M. You guys have high standards. And my daughter is a junior, little cheerleader, straight A student. So it's a pretty cool deal to be me. But on game day, I mean, game day is the best day of the week. I remember when I was at Indiana and we were having pregame meal, I was an assistant coach with Jerry Yeagley, who is a legend in the game of soccer. So Coach Yeagley says to me, Jamie, can you believe we get to do this? we're like gladiators, you know? And that's what I love so much about being in sports, that I mean, it is a normal business, but you have these incredible highs and these lows of lows, and every season is like a lifetime, and then you start over again. It just really works for me.
Yeah, I could only imagine for sure. I mean, just the rush, the adrenaline that must be going through you on game day for sure. And I will say, I want to just, for the audience that might, not follow you on LinkedIn as much as I do, I can say firsthand, man, Jamie gets around. He is just always doing something amazing. So that's a little kudos to you, Jamie, on that. Excellent. Okay, let's go to the second question. Jamie, can you share with us what your path to becoming an NFL executive looked like? And before you answer that, I want to piggyback a little bit on what a couple of students asked you, which was, one of our MBA students asked, I am a former student athlete just like you, Jamie. I am also pursuing an MBA just like you did. How did you get into professional sports? And how did you end up as the president of the Texans? Also, any job opens for internship?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with the internship. We have a program. It's almost impossible to get a job with us from a business perspective once you've started your career somewhere. Our entry point is called the draft class. And we bring in a group of the 12 of the finest recent graduates that we can find. They start in the late spring when they graduate, and they spend 9 months with us. And they do regular work. They're just regular part of the organization. Report to a manager just like everybody else. We do some special activities that brings the draft class together. They do a project together. They get to present out. And, it's a little interesting that, every couple of months with my leadership team, we go through every one of those draft class members. We have a picture, we have strengths, weaknesses, manager comments. And if somebody is really exceptional, if they have what we call the three non-negotiables, which is having a great work ethic, having a winning attitude, and a willingness to operate consistently with our values, I don't care what role you're in. If we have an opening, we want to try to slot you in there as an entry-level employee. And if you're one of those people that makes the grade and we just don't have a spot, we try to put you somewhere else until we do have a spot, and you'll become a boomerang, right? So you've gone out and we've brought you back. And I love our boomerang employees. So that's all for you guys. And I'll give you you can email your resume to Trang, T-R-A-N-G, .do, but it's spelled like dough, D-O, at HoustonTexans.com. Now, the second point about being an MBA, it's really interesting. I remember back to those times, right? So I go back and get an MBA, and the goal was to decide whether I wanted to work in a sports business or be a coach. So I coached while I was in the MBA program, and I started to make relationships, did all kinds of informational interviews. In the spring, I accepted a job with Procter & Gamble in brand management with no expectation that I would do it, because a friend of mine was at the World Cup in '94 in Chicago and asked me to come work for him until the World Cup was over. And I was like, of course, I'm going to meet somebody in sports and they're going to hire me and I'm going to be off to the races. Well, that didn't happen, right? So I had to, bide my time at Procter & Gamble, worked hard, learned a lot. It was really a great experience, but it was not what I wanted to be doing. I had to keep up that network. So the thing I would say, it's awesome to have an MBA, right? When I was getting hired by Lamar Hunt, my MBA mattered a lot. When it mattered even more when I was being hired by Bob McNair to have an MBA. He was going to give, his $1 billion franchise over to, he wanted somebody special, right? So had the credentials. The challenge you'll have is getting an opportunity. You're just going to have to bust your tail more than everybody else. If you'd have just gone to a sport management program, that all they are is a placement office. I mean, you learn some things, but their job is to get you a job in sports in a ticketing department or a marketing department or somewhere like that. At least when I was at Indiana, sports teams didn't recruit on campus. Okay. So you had to go out and make your own way. And that's probably the way it is now. So stepping back to my career, when I was at Clemson, I had a wonderful time. I could have gone to college forever. I mean, it was great. I played soccer. We were national champions a couple of times. I was student body president. I was a top student. I was in the honors college. I was crushing it. But then we got to the end and I was like, what do I do next? I don't really want to get a job. But the priority job coming out of the B school at Clemson was you need to either go, if you can get a job at Dow or at IBM. Dow will give you their management program training, and IBM has the best sales training program on the planet. So I picked IBM because I had an idea that these computer things were gonna take off at some point, and they did, right? Changed everything in the world, but I wasn't satisfied. So I went back and saw our athletic director, Bobby Robinson, and said, I think I want to work in a sports business or be a coach. He goes, well, first you got to decide is one or the other because they're not the same thing. That's why Indiana was such a great blessing, was the chance to get an advanced degree, to work in the athletic department, to coach, and at the end, making a decision. Actually, it's kind of funny. I was talking to Coach Yeagley after year 2, and he said, so you came here to make a decision whether you should be in a business or you should be a coach. Which do you think is a better fit? I said, well, Coach, I really think it's a sports business, not coaching. He said, I agree. So I don't think I impressed him with my coaching skills. So now it takes you to the Procter & Gamble side. Eventually, I got a call. It was really interesting. I was at Procter & Gamble and had really had it. And a friend of mine had called about being the global category manager for soccer for Reebok. And I just had an interview with Lamar Hunt about this to-be-developed league called Major League Soccer. And Lamar's guy that I had done informational interviews with, he called me. His name's Tim Conley. He said, Jamie, you did a great job in the interview. We don't know whether this league is going to make it or not. So why don't you just sit tight and we'll call you when things work out. And I said, well, Tim, I'm getting into sports, okay? Either I'm going to take this job with Reebok or you're going to give me an offer today. And he said, don't take that job. Faxed me an offer letter, 70% of what I was making at Procter & Gamble. And I took the job, spent 5 years there, got a call from a headhunter, a dear friend of mine, Buffy Philippel. Would you like to consider the NFL? I said, one of the things I told her is, you may not believe this, but when I was in my MBA program, I said, mark my words, I am going to be the president of an NFL team. And eventually it all worked out.
That's an amazing story. And it's funny, you talk about the internship. So I'll just tell you a very, very, very quick story because I want it to be about you. But coincidentally, today I had a call with a candidate for one of my programs. She's interested in one of my programs. And she said, well, she goes, I actually have an interview and I'm interviewing for an internship at the Houston Texans. I'm like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? I've got, the president of the Houston Texans is going to be on a call with us this afternoon. And I said, what's the role? And she said, it's going to be the assistant of your executive assistant. I'm like, with Bonnie? And she's like, yeah, that's who I'm interviewing with. And I don't want to say her name, but she's on this call right now. And I just thought that was so cool. Like it's an amazing coincidence.
Yeah, that's become an incredible role. I mean, you get to see everything that goes on. I mean, we're probably a little loose in our confidentiality, but I mean, you don't sit on the sidelines. Bonnie throws you in, and now we have a rhythm where at the end you update all of the how-tos for the president's intern, and then so we're building that knowledge base over time of what the responsibilities will be and what are some of the shortcuts and what's the standard of excellence that we have. And so it's gone really well. I love the draft class. I think this might be the smartest thing we've ever done.
That sounds really innovative. Excellent. All right, let's go to the next question. Actually, and this, you might have already sort of alluded to it a bit. The question was actually from one of our students. What were some major barriers that you had to overcome to become the president of the Texans? Did connections from Clemson or other places help you overcome these challenges?
Yeah, connections are so incredibly important. When people ask me, to come in, they want to do an informational interview. I'm like, let me tell you 3 things you got to have good answers to in your life. One is, what is it that you love to do? It's all about passion. In my book, I talk about the root word of passion, where I never really knew what passion meant. I thought it meant excitement and energy and fun, and that's not what it's about at all. The root word is a Latin word, pati, P-A-T-I, which literally means the willingness to suffer and sacrifice for what you hold dear. And if you're trying to do something really big, there's going to be sacrifice. There's going to be pain and suffering and things you're just going to have to do. So it really better matter a lot to you, right? So what do you love to do? What are you passionate about? Number two, what makes you special? What are your unique? Everybody's got talent, unique talents, but they're not all the same. Here at the Texans, the cool thing is the only talents that we're looking for is a great work ethic and a winning attitude and committing to our values. Those are available to everybody. You just choose to have a great work ethic. You choose to have a great attitude, and you choose to operate consistently with the way our organization is put together. But the most important is the third. Who thinks you're special? We talk in the book about creating raving fans. It's not about just knowing people. It's not about networking. It's about a network. A network is different than networking. For example, here in Houston, I could brag that I've got thousands and thousands of people that I know their name and I have their phone number. But unless I've engaged in meaningful work with them, achieved something important with them, built a trusting relationship and built a level of respect and admiration, they're not part of my network. They won't go out on a limb to argue for me. They won't protect me when somebody says that Roots kid's a jerk. They're not going to stand up for me. So that's the standard. It's not about how many Facebook followers you have. It's how many meaningful relationships, folks, that when you call, they're going to say, Jamie, say the word, whatever it is. Tim Connolly was one of those guys. I built that kind of connection over a long period of time. And when he thought about launching a soccer team, I was the only person on his list. And it's made all the difference.
That's really, really great advice. And I'm so glad my 10-year-old's sitting right here because, he wants to make it to the big leagues, right? As you said, you got to pay that price. You got to, do what you got to do to make it happen.
But here's the good news, because it sounds all hard and, bust your tail and you do, but there is so little traffic on the extra mile. There's a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, one of my favorite books of all time. He said, life cannot deny itself to the man or woman that gives life his or her all. The problem is most people don't do that, but those that do are special.
Awesome. I hope every one of you are writing this down. All right, let's go to the next question. Though the Texans are the youngest NFL franchise, they are ranked 10th in franchise value. What are some ways in which you and your team have managed to create value above and beyond your competitors? And you certainly have, Jamie.
Well, I'm just laughing because whoever wrote that one, they haven't read my book yet, because that's what the book is all about. There's a guy by the name of Greg Beatles, who is the executive vice president of the Atlanta Falcons. The way the NFL owners meetings work, we're in different conference rooms all the time, but they are set up. I mean, you would not tell one from the next. Same logos, same tables, same computers, same everything. And everybody sits at the same place. It's really funny when a new owner buys into the league and they'll go to the meeting early and they'll sit in somebody else's place. It's not like they're marked, but like the Steelers will walk in. They've been in the same place for like 75 years. They kind of look down and people are like, you're over there in the far corner. So we sit across from the Falcons, and we always have. And so Greg Beatles has become a good friend of mine. And back in November, Greg said, Jamie, you guys win, you lose, just like we do. I mean, you've had good teams, you had bad teams, but I get the reports, and every time they're published on local performance, you're at the top of every metric. How did you do that? That was the impetus for writing this book. How do you succeed despite the whimsical nature of performance on the field? I did some math last night, and I figured out, if you take every team that's ever played sports and put their records all in one place, they come out 500. You win as many as you lose. So if it's all about winning, you got no shot. There's something different that people are looking for from us. It absolutely starts with winning. You win championships is number one, our top priority. And it's 32 teams start, only one ends happy. So you just can't hang your hat on that. And second is the key thing, creating memorable experiences, things that truly touch people emotionally. It's been proven over and over and over that experiences are much more valuable than things. And so if we can create an experience that is unique, you think about the barbecue cook-off. I mean, one of my favorite times of year. That's wonderful. I mean, I think about it, the rest of the year. But we want to be like that. And then last is to do great things for Houston. This book that I wrote, I mean, as you mentioned, well, you did mention the foundation, that it's the Champions for Youth, but all of the proceeds will benefit our foundation to go out and build the next generation of leaders for the city of Houston. And, we're constantly looking for ways to make Houston a better place. I believe wholeheartedly that a high tide lifts all boats. A strong Houston creates a strong Houston Texans. That's why I would spend the time to be the chair of the Greater Houston Partnership, spend the time to be the chair of the United Way of Greater Houston. We're all over the place because we know that as Houston goes, we go.
Excellent. I want to take 30 seconds for Nira to chime in and say hello to you, Jamie. Nira.
You got to come off mute, Nira.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hi,
Hey, well, I haven't seen you forever. How you doing?
I know, I'm good. How are you?
You're great. We miss you here.
Oh, I miss being there. It's so nice to see your office in the back.
I've been back since June. So anyway, good luck in your studying. Really very proud of you. You're a great Texan.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
Excellent. So for those that do not know, Nira is one of our full-time MBA students, and she's worked with Jamie at the Houston Texans in the past. Thanks for doing that, Nira. Awesome. Okay, so that brings us to another question I wanted to ask. This is, I think, a really kind of it's been a real, let's say, issue within the NFL over the course of the last number of years. In the fall of 2016, the NFL was thrust into the spotlight of public discourse as teams had to decide how to react to players choosing to kneel during the national anthem. From a business operations perspective, can you describe how it was to guide the organization through this time? It appeared that teams were losing fans no matter how they reacted.
That was a tough window. And we're kind of back to it again after the George Floyd. I mean, you can't fault the guys for, we're the ones who gave them that platform of, the national anthem. We used to not have the players out during the anthem. I think it changed in like 2009. And so, we're the ones who put them out there. However they choose to conduct themselves, as long as it's not in violation of the collective bargaining agreement, it's up to them. So, but then navigating it with our fans was really difficult because it's not an argument you can win, because it was a illogical argument. Okay. Do you stand for the elimination of racism, or do you love America? It's possible that the answer to both of those is yes. I love America and I do not think racism is appropriate. So that was the challenge. I don't know how we all got pitted against each other, but there was no anti-American sentiment amongst our players, right? And our fans think racism is a thing of the past and should be eradicated. So we kind of are in agreement, but the media, in my mind, the media is causing people to perceive that we are not in agreement.
Excellent. I wanted to see if, I think that this next question will give you another opportunity to maybe mention some of the other cool things that you're doing. I think the way in which you talked about the fact that it's not just about winning, it starts with winning, but it's also all those extra things you do, those intangibles, like you said, the barbecue, the cook-off, the things you do for community and society and stuff. So my next question, Texans management and players have always shown great service to the community of Houston during natural disasters. Certainly we know what J.J. Watt did, a couple years back there. And more recently, the pandemic. What do you think is key to fostering a culture of community service that many professional sports teams struggle to emulate?
Well, first and foremost, you can't do anything in a sports organization unless you have the full support of ownership. So it starts there. I don't know. I mean, Bob and Janice have made contributions of, let alone the Texans, of $500 million to causes all over the country that were near and dear to them, whether it's Baylor College of Medicine or helping underserved kids in South Carolina to go to college, or paying for the funerals of all the families in Charleston that were murdered at the AME church. I mean, and those are things that they never talk about. So they've led with their actions. So how did it translate into the organization? So my job is to understand who the owner is and what they want to get accomplished and turn that into a plan of work for 365 days. Okay. So I had a great understanding of the McNairs. We did some things foundation wise, but it really took off around, I don't know if y'all remember Hurricane Katrina, which hit New Orleans and was so devastating. Well, I remember it was a Monday, and we were playing on the 4th preseason game in Tampa on Thursday night. And on Thursday night, all these buses, 30,000 people were coming from the Superdome to the Astrodome, right next to our stadium. And so I said, we got to do something about that. And so I called Bob. I said, Bob, I have a plan I'd like to share with you. Okay. Well, I've talked to ABC 13. They're fine turning our game into a telethon. So 3-hour telethon, games playing, but scrolling is call this number and you can donate today, et cetera. You fill in the blanks. They said they don't have a phone bank. So I'm going to have to get all of our staff down in the ticket office, and they're going to be answering the phones and taking all the pledges. Okay. What do you need from me? I said, well, I really need some matching dollars, because if you'll match, then I think it'll get the pump primed. He said, okay, you got your dentist appointment. Go there and call me afterwards. I'm going to talk to Janice. I thought $100,000 would be just a home run. I called him back and he said, all right, I talked to Janice. We'll match everything up to $1 million. So he's putting $1 million in. That night we raised $2.5 million. And as important as those dollars were, I think the example that we set, that we didn't just stand by. We did something about it. And our staff, just the pride that they felt, it was visceral. They didn't just observe it. They're answering the phones, and they're working their tails off, and they're having a great time. So that became a tradition for us. It sounds kind of sadistic, but when crisis strikes, we get these big smiles on our faces. Hey, time for us to step up. What are we going to do? How are we going to take this on? What are we going to raise? Who are we going to help? Because adversity doesn't build character, it reveals it. And that's from John Wooden. And so I think those times are the times that we can show what we're made of more than any other.
Well, I could tell you firsthand, I got the goosebumps listening to that story. That's pretty cool. Excellent. So let's go to the next one. What problem? Oh, well, you already sort of hinted at this or talked about this. I was going to ask you the question one of our students had asked, which was, what problem or inspiration did you have or see in your life that made you want to write your new book, The Winning Game Plan?
Well, that's a great question. And it's available at Amazon.com. Great Christmas gift. Seriously, the motivation for it. I told you about the deal with Greg Beatles, but I'm a failed author about 14 times. So in the last 20 years, I said I need to write a book, and I'd get started. I'd write an outline. I'd get too busy, move on. And then it was in February. A friend of mine said, "Jamie, you've been talking about this book forever. All right, when are you going to write it?" I said, "Well, as soon as I find a publisher that I like." He said, "I've got the perfect publisher." Okay, her company is called Elite Online Publishing, and her name's Melanie. And I said, all right, great. Set up a meeting back in Houston when we get back from skiing. So it was on a Friday afternoon. I met Melanie, and she just made me feel comfortable, because my biggest concern was that A, I would give up, B, it would be terrible. She just said, you have a great book in you. I know you. I know you. You don't know me, but I know you. And I'll make sure that it works. And so she gave me that comfort and I got after it. That was really her. She pushed me over the line, but it really, at the last point, halfway through, I said, you know, at some point I really need to do something special for the McNair family because they've changed my life. And you can't, if somebody's a billionaire, you can't go down to Macy's and buy them something. Okay. So I called Janice and I said, I really want the proceeds of this book. You know, I'll do all the work. No problem. But I want it to go to the foundation. And that was my way of saying, I love them.
That's awesome. I have a question that our assistant director of the full-time MBA wanted to ask you. How do you balance the humanistic versus business role in your handling of your people? So this can be anybody that, I mean, I don't know how involved you get with, the handling of things like the coach, and things like this, but, from that to obviously your people that, you're looking out all the time.
That's a great question. And I've said it for 20 years. I remember in B school, there was a Alehu Goldrat. Goldrat was his last name. And it was a manufacturing expert. And he made a comment that the purpose of business is profit. And all the investment bankers around me are shaking their head, yes. I'm like, no, that's not what the purpose of business is. A purpose. The purpose is to fulfill a unique business need. Yes, you do need profit in order to reward your shareholders, to reward your customers, to reward your employees, to reward your community. But if it ever becomes about the dollars, no one's gonna want to do that. Nobody's gonna care. What are we here uniquely to do? And so my job as a leader is to get great people around me that care deeply about what we're doing. And if they care deeply about what they're doing, when we sit down and we blue sky and say, what do we want to be a year from now? Well, they set higher expectations than I ever would have. They're inspired by this. My only job is to create an accountability system at that point. So to document what the goals are for the year and hold them accountable for realizing those goals, not how to do it, but what to get accomplished. It's up to them how to make it happen and do it ethically, of course. And so in that, we're all in it together. I mean, if I'm pushing you too hard, I'm going to ease up because I've selected you to be my teammate. The last thing I want to do is drive you too hard. Just like a coach, coach goes out on the practice field. He sees the guys it's just it's not happening today. Hey guys, let's wrap up early. We're gone. You have to be in tune with how your people are feeling. I'll give you one other example. I lead with optimism, as you can tell, and energy and inspiration. I'm the chief cheerleader. But I was at the Super Bowl last year, and we do our planning at the beginning, right after the Super Bowl. So I was down in Miami, and I got a call from one of my favorite employees of all time. She runs my marketing group. And she said, Jamie, next week, last thing we need is another dose of sunshine and ponies, right? Let's embrace the suck. This is going terrible. I want to talk about our problems. So I said, okay. And we did. We spent the first half day. Everybody got it out, went around, blah, 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 documented it, had our advisor summarize all that, came back, and we're like, well, this isn't so bad. There are really only about 4 or 5 things that we have to get accomplished, and we built out the plan to make that happen. But if I didn't allow that authentic release of how they were feeling, it would have still been there. Just because you ignore it doesn't mean it's not there. It's still there. You have to pull it out. And we talk about the human side of it. I'm constantly looking for what levers to pull to deliver their best performances.
Excellent. What was the hardest decision that you had to make in your career thus far? And how do you personally handle ethical dilemmas that come up from time to time?
I'll tell you about ethical dilemmas. I have none. I believe in something that Bob said early on. It's in a conference room here. Do what's right and accept the consequences. If it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it. And if that means that I'm shunned, if that means that people won't want to hire me, if that means that it cost me $1 million, I'm going to do what's right. Because when you're at the end of your days, you want to feel like you have lived a life of integrity, that you say what you are, you do what you say. That's Texan, right? So the hardest decision that I've ever had to make, all of them, I'll just put them all in one bucket. It's the people decisions.
Yep.
Who doesn't fit? Because I am the only one that can make that decision. People think leadership is all sunshine and ponies. There's a lot of great things. It's fun to be at the head of the pack. It's fun to go out there and then shake the hands and kiss the babies and people, praising you. But when it comes to having to make a decision that adversely impacts somebody's personal life, potentially their career going forward, I don't go into it lightly, and it is so hard.
Yeah, no question about it. It's one of probably the most challenging things about being a leader for sure. Excellent. As a lifelong Texans fan, now clearly this is not me asking this particular question, although I must say I'm turning to be a bit of a Texan fan now because of you, my friend. But as a lifelong Texans fan,
Richard, here's the good news. We're going to be here a long time. We're going to be here a long time. If you don't want to join us now, 3 years from now, come on. It doesn't matter.
Can it be my second favorite team?
No problem.
Awesome. All right. As a lifelong Texans fan and someone whose dream job is to become the general manager or a professional of a professional sports franchise, I wanted to ask for some advice. As a future CPA, I figured that my best shot was to enter the industry on the business side. Do you think it is feasible to transition to the sports management personnel side of a team?
Yeah, so it's all about probabilities and margin of error. The easiest way to be on the personnel side is to go be on the personnel side as an intern, as a unpaid advisor. These minimum wage jobs are super hard to get, right? Because the path that people want to take, that's the highest probability you can make it happen. There are times where a friend of mine told me, he said, you know what? This will be terrible. You know what you get when you put your nose to the grindstone? I said, no. He said, you get a shorter nose. Pole vault into that place, right? And that was when I was in the MBA program. And he said, pole vault in, and you'll go in at a much higher level than being a ticket salesperson or something like that. It turned out to be right. But again, the margin of error, the likelihood of Major League Soccer starting at exactly the right time. I had met the right person. I was living in the right place. I had all the credentials. I mean, that's a needle in a haystack. And it would be the same if you have an accounting degree to go on the business side. Not that it is, and I got to get this last name, but I'll just call him Richard. His name was Richard. We had an intern in the corporate development group. His name was Richard. And Richard played football. He wasn't a very particularly good player at Texas, but he was on the team, and he was one of those team guys, the hard hat lunch pail. And he played with Kyle Shanahan. And so after his internship, he came and said, actually, we hired him full time. He went to his boss and said, you know what? I really think I want to be on the football side. He said, well, go and talk to some of the guys down there. He did. And they gave him an internship in football. Kyle was here at the time. So Kyle was his buddy. He's now the special teams coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. So it can happen. It's just harder.
Yeah, I would say probably a lot more examples, right, of the ones that somehow, some way work their way up from that sort of low internship entry level. They pay their dues. They make it, somehow, some way they make it to the top at some point.
That's right.
Probably a lot more examples of that.
Right.
Excellent. All right. Have you, this is one of our fun questions from Haywood Miller. So Haywood's one of our students. Have you ever had any interactions with Dan Snyder? How is he viewed around the league? And please tell me that there is hope for my Redskins winning a Super Bowl during my lifetime. I am currently 31, and the average American male lives until 76. Any chance for me to experience happiness?
Haywood, thank you for that question. I'll start at the end on hope. Absolutely. There's hope. Every team has the same resources. Dan Snyder wants to win as badly as anybody. I think he started off, it was a challenging start, and I think he's certainly, his attitude has changed dramatically from when I first got into the league. I don't spend a lot of time with them or any of the other owners, but there's only one owner that really matters to me, and that's Janice McNair. But I do think they've got, talented people. I think they're very serious about operating in a manner that's going to bring a championship to Washington. I was very proud of them for the name change that they initiated. That took a lot of courage because there's a lot of value lost there. The Redskins brand is incredibly valuable. It's like if you guys couldn't be called the Aggies anymore, so we're going to be a Texas A&M somethings. There's value in Aggies, right? So I think they're doing the right things. I have great hope that that team will be successful. I'm very hopeful that they get a new stadium, which they desperately need, and they'll continue to be a very special franchise for years to come.
Excellent. What advice would you give to all our MBAs and MS business students participating in this Zoom session today?
Advice. You don't chase money. Chase what matters to you, and money will come. Money's a result. It's input versus outcome. Input versus output. You can't control the output. You start chasing the output, you're going to be off track. Focus on the input. What do I love to do? What am I really good at? Who are my raving fans? Get really good at that, and you will be rewarded. I mean, for me, like I said, I took 70% of what I was making at Procter & Gamble to be in the role that I knew I was made for. I knew over time I was going to make it back, because when you're passionate about what you're doing, you really care about it, you're going to outwork everybody. If you don't have the skills, think about it. I had zero experience at anything in life when I was the president of a soccer team, a startup in that. There's not even a blueprint. I was the first employee, and I had to put the whole thing together. Do you think I worked a lot? Oh my God, I worked. The only time I knew I was working was my eyes were open. And because I had to catch up, I had to learn so many things in order to be able to deliver the kind of performance that I expected of myself. And it flipped. My first year, we had 10 games left in the season, 11 games. And a guy, Brian McBride, who was my first ever draft selection, one of the greatest soccer players in U.S. soccer history, Brian grabbed me when he was coming off the field. He said, "Jamie, this guy's not getting it done for us. Can you come into the locker room and give the pregame speech?" I said, "Brian, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to fix your problem." Next morning, I held a press conference, announced that we had fired Timo Liakowski and that I was promoting Tom Fitzgerald, and he was going to, on an interim basis, become our coach. We won 9 out of 10 games to make the playoffs. We were dead last. I wound up winning the Executive of the Year because of that turnaround. But that was the result of a lot of hard work over a long period of time, doing something that I loved, believing in myself, and just doing what I thought was right time after time.
Yeah, that's a great lesson. Well, look, I want to open it up to our audience to ask questions. First is this VIP next to me who wants to ask you a question.
I want to know if you've ever played in professional, like the NFL.
Yeah, that's a good question. I have not played in the NFL. I was a soccer player growing up, and then I was a soccer coach. I've always loved the National Football League. I mean, growing up as a kid, we played in the front yard all the time. I played in youth football, Pop Warner kind of stuff, but more of a spectator. I love the drama, the athleticism, the strategy that goes into the game of football. It's really the best television sport that there is.
Excellent. All right. What questions do you have for Jamie, y'all?
I have a question. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm Henry Gardner, and so my question for you was: you're talking about the 3 things that you typically rank people on after the whole draft process, and you said one of those was work ethic, and I completely agree in just the importance of a work ethic, and just that's really honestly something whether that's in sports or in business can really just level the playing field. So my question for you is, are there any tangible ways to develop an even stronger work ethic?
I think it's just doing it. It's just Henry, first of all, thanks for the question. I just think it's doing it. It's all about habits. You are what you consistently do. So make it a habit to work hard, to outwork other people, to never leave anything in the tank. And that will become who you are. There's a quote from Gandhi that it goes, it's not long. It's be careful in your thoughts become your words. Be careful in your words become your actions. Be careful in your actions become your habits. Be careful in your habits become your destiny. So by the property of transitivity, it's about thoughts. Your thoughts determine your destiny.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Henry?
Excellent. So Ryan has the next question. Ryan, I think it's Ryan Sewald. Ryan?
Yes, Ryan Sewald. Yes, I'm a senior business honors student. So I just wanted to ask, and I don't have much room to talk because I'm a Cowboys fan, but the Texans aren't having the best of years. How does it change your business plan when the team kind of goes up and down? And like in those down years, how does your business plan change?
Yeah, Ryan, that's a great question. How many wins do the Cowboys have?
I think like 2. I've stopped watching. It's depressing, and I want to ruin my whole Sunday.
There's a saying that I subscribe to: people in glass houses should not throw stones. Okay, so but really, Ryan, I'm just teasing you. I love the Cowboys. What a great organization, and what an awesome family, and they're what a great identity. I mean, they're America's team. All we can be is Texas team. So the ups and downs. What you do is, when I first started with the Texans, everybody around town said, Jamie, you're not from here, so let us tell you how it works. If you win, people will come. And if you lose, they won't come. That's the way it's always been, and you're not going to change it. Charlie Casserly told me the same thing in a management meeting. I said, look, I don't believe it. I don't believe that it's about winning and losing. We want to win. We're going to do everything we can to win, but there's something beneath this. There's a unique human desire that we are addressing that is incredibly valuable. And if we can do this really well, people will come whether we win or we lose. The Oilers set the record for the most blackouts in NFL history. So we're in the same market. We have sold out every game we've ever played, and we have a 30,000 member wait list. We basically could fill the Astrodome with our wait list in addition to our season ticket base. And the interesting thing is, think about it. It doesn't make sense if it's just about the game. I'm going to tell y'all a secret. And please, if we can keep it on this call, every one of our games is available for free on the television. And if people knew that, they wouldn't come to our games, right? That's not right, because they're seeking something different. And if you stay focused on that, if you just stay focused on what people are looking for and give it to them consistently in a manner better than any other option, just like any product, you will constantly be rewarded with their loyalty. All of our seats are sold before the season starts. So if we go undefeated or we don't win a game, we're done. The hay's in the barn. And then from season to season, hope springs eternal. This January, the mentality in Houston will be completely different. Y'all ever seen Men in Black, that movie where they do the zap thing and then you don't remember what happened? That's what's great about January, February. It all doesn't matter anymore. We had a terrible year, so we've got new coaches. Or we had a great year, now let's go to the Super Bowl. And you got to it's all your thinking, it's your thoughts. Your thought cannot be it's about winning and losing. It's about surprising and delighting our customers. It's about the relationships. It's about the people in this building and how talented they are and how passionate they are. When I think about the Texans machine, it's only 2 things. It's the people, the talent, and our relationships. And we have to protect both of those at all costs.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, the experience, right, is what you're really paying for.
Absolutely.
The time that you have there. Awesome. Case, you're next up. Case, go ahead.
Awesome. Okay. I'm a sophomore here at Mays. I just had a question. I've heard the saying, like, there's no bad days for leaders. Like, as a leader, you can never have a bad attitude or be in a bad mood. So I was just wondering, like, how you've seen that affect your organization. Like, how do you continually every day come to work and inspire people like despite how your individual day is going?
Yeah, well, it's important. I just keep reminding everybody, we actually get paid to do this. We're paid to fulfill a role. And if my responsibility is to be positive, optimistic, opportunity focused, I have to do my role. I'm not a bricklayer, so I don't lay bricks. But if the bricklayer is like, you know what, my hands hurt, I can't lay bricks, well, he can't do his job. And if I can't be positive, if I can't find something to get jacked up about, I can't do my job. Bob McNair was asked by Mark Vandermeer, who's the voice of the Texans, Bob, you've always been so positive. I've never seen you in a bad mood. Why is that? He said, have you ever seen someone successful that wasn't optimistic?
Great question.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Case. Hey, William, you're up next.
How you doing, sir? My name's William, and I'm a freshman at Mays. Also, I live in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm a big Tennessee Titans fan. And I was wondering if you were given the chance by the Strunk family that owns the Titans, would you take back the Houston Oilers name? Because I know that the family of the Titans that owns them is not really trying to get rid of the old name, and the Texans have had like some kind of clash there. So I was wondering what your perspective was on that.
Well, that's a great question. I have raised it. Steve Underwood was their previous president, and that was the last time that we talked about it. I said, Steve, these intellectual property rights are just kind of shelved by y'all because you don't do throwbacks anymore. Houston believes it's their property, but I've not been able to make that happen yet. I thought we were close. The year that Dallas hosted the draft, we were close, but it fell apart.
Thanks for your question. We have Oscar, and Oscar's one of the 4 students that were asking some of the other questions. So Oscar, please unmute yourself.
Howdy, Mr. Roots. It's really appreciate you coming out. My question kind of goes back to what Case was asking about having no bad days and taking negative situations and making them positive. With the recent suspension, Fuller and Bradley Roby, how do you, there's some negative PR there right now, I'm sure. How do you spin that in a positive way?
Well, you just got to remember, there are no perfect games in life. Everybody's going to have their strengths, their weaknesses, their pluses, their minuses. Actually, I'll give you a little tip, all right? You're going to have to buy my book in order to get, I'm serious, I'm totally serious. That in it is a QR code. Is that what y'all call it? Where you take a picture and it downloads it? So there's a QR code that has an exercise that has been the greatest tool to keep me positive and optimistic. And it's really simple. It's called the Blessings and Burdens exercise. And it talks you through how to do it. It'll take you 5 minutes. And please, if you don't, after you do it, if you don't find yourself inspired, let me know, because I think we might need some remedial counseling.
Excellent. Any last minute questions for Jamie? If you have any, you can just unmute yourself and ask. Really appreciate your time with us, Jamie, today, for sure.
My pleasure. I love Texas A&M, man. It's always great to be with you. And I just, so gratified that people want to be in this industry. And I just wish you all the luck. And if you can get in, man, it's a wild ride. If you got to be an adrenaline junkie though, because if you go, like when I was at IBM and Procter & Gamble, February 3rd looked just like November 2nd. Yeah, there's no difference. It's like that show, The Office, right? In here, you're constantly vacillating between the highs to highs, lows to lows, navigating success, trying to overcome adversity. You're always, it's just like you're in hyperdrive all the time. Every season is like a life, and there's always challenges to overcome or success to navigate to bring everybody back down. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, we'll have to make sure next year when, this whole COVID thing is behind us, we'll have to pick a cool A&M game. We'll invite you down and we'll have you join us or something. We'll do something cool.
Well, Richard, on Friday, we're going to go over to traditions, and you'll probably take my money, but I love playing that golf course.
Awesome. Good luck there. And one other thing for some of our students here, just to let you know, I'm already talking to Jamie about doing some sort of very cool trip to NRG next year as like a kind of like a student trip, field trip to NRG. And of course, obviously, you know, my hope would be that Jamie could show us the ropes and show us around or something.
I will. And Richard will also gather. It must be 60 of my folks that are A&M grads that would love to hang out with you guys and help you in any way that they could.
That'd be fun. That'd be really great. I'm obviously looking forward to, you know, to being in touch with you regularly, and just so grateful for you and for your time today. Thank you so much. I would recommend, you know, getting his book. I'm certainly planning to get it for this character next to me. So he can start thinking of his game-winning plan. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Jamie, we'll talk soon.
Of course, happy holidays to all of you and your families.
Thank you.
Yeah. Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. Beat the Colts.
You know it.
Thank you.
Bye, Jamie. It was great seeing you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.